The Titans take on the Los Angeles Chargers this weekend, 4:05 p.m. Eastern, a late game. We're going to talk a little bit about this matchup. We're also going to talk about college players to keep an eye on because unfortunately we are at that point in the season and we want to stay engaged in the process. So we're going to look at the college football slate this weekend and just some names that maybe could be targets for the Titans come April. We're going to talk a lot more about these guys once the season is over, but never too early to start. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo and Justin. Our second podcast coming off a victory week as we look ahead. How's it going?
They've been rare. They've been rare like unicorns, but it's nice to be coming off a win, going into Sunday with some positive momentum. And finally, the news at quarterback for the Titans that we expected to get last week, but ended up coming this week.
Honestly, I've been saying this for like 3 weeks now. Will Levis expected to potentially return this weekend? Well, yes. On Friday morning, we got confirmation via multiple sources, but I think the first one I saw was Paul Kaharski, that Will Levis will start on Sunday. So, Justin, I would advise everyone listening to this, just go back to our previous podcast because last week, not previous, but our last week's preview podcast, because we basically had a 10-minute conversation about, is this Will Levis's last chance? And then the day after we recorded that, he was ruled out. So that was really fun.
Yeah, as always. But no, you're right in saying if people want that part of the conversation, you could listen to last week's because we've got nothing new to say about it, right? He didn't play last week. Obviously, this is a big opportunity for Will Levis to summarize because you're here and you're listening right now. It's his big opportunity. It's probably his final opportunity, right? The Titans got, 9 games left, I believe, in the season, right? They're 2-6. Yeah, so 9 games left. This is it. He's got to play. He's got to stay healthy. I wrote a great article on Broadway, 1,000 words about almost the same damn thing. Because it's like, and that's the one caveat to it, by the way. I think he's so much on his last chance, if you will, that getting hurt also answers the question. And I think you'll agree, right? Like he's got to play and he's got to play well. He has not played well enough where if he gets hurt, we've got like a Marcus Mariota situation where we're like, we got to give him another year. No, I don't think they do. I don't think they have to give him another year. I think he's got to play, and he's got to play well for these last 9 games. I'm all about not pulling the plug too early, but you've got to see something. Right. If you literally end this year without seeing anything, and I mean anything good, because what you've seen is either injury or really bad. If that's all you've seen the entire year, I have a hard time justifying another year, even if you're the most patient of people. So I'm of the opinion he's got to play, and he's got to play. And by the way, that article I wrote on Broadway, you should read it. It's pretty good, if I say so myself. Like how much better the offense has been in recent weeks. You talked about it, the Lions game, season high yardage amount, I think it was 416, something along those lines. They had 400 yards again against the Patriots. Right. So back-to-back weeks with 400 yards of offense, you win that game. The O-line's playing way better. Calvin Ridley has emerged and is playing really well. If all those things regress, and by the way, one of the interesting numbers I put on there in the article of Broadway, I don't want to give it all away. I want you to read it. Pressure to sack rate. How high Will Levis's is. Levis's is, and how low Mason Rudolph's is.
Right.
Stark difference. I don't know if you knew that, but I didn't quite expect Rudolph's to be as low as it is. It's really low, his pressure. It's one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
His pressure to sack rate, according to PFF. So a lot of things. Again, Ridley, the O-line play, giving up sacks. Really interesting to see how Will Levis does. If they regress to the mean or what they were before, then again, I think you kind of know who to blame.
And that's one of the things we talked about coming into the season that Will Levis needed to show was improvement in that area. And it's something that is really hard for quarterbacks to improve. You go back to college, he had a really high pressure to sack rate. You look at quarterbacks around the league, that's usually a pretty stable number year over year. It's very difficult for a quarterback to just develop pocket presence, but that's one thing that Will Levis needs to do. Ryan Tannehill always had a high pressure to sack rate. Even when he was playing well, he always had a high pressure to sack rate. Dating back to Miami, and then when he came to Tennessee, it didn't get much lower. The pressures got lower because he played behind a very good offensive line for a couple seasons there, but the actual pressure to sack rate, it's just something that doesn't typically get better over time. So that's one area we're going to watch. This is an interesting matchup because the Chargers defense is playing very, very well. They have a lot of playmakers on that team. Obviously, the Bosas and the Derwin James, but guys that you maybe necessarily haven't heard of as much are playing well too. And they are allowing the fewest points per game in the NFL right now through 9 weeks. So this is going to be a big test for a Titans offense that struggles to score. You are without Lloyd Cushenberry for the rest of the season. I believe Daniel Brunskill is expected to start at center. Dylan Radin's expected to return and start at right guard. We'll see about right tackle. I would expect Leroy Watson starts again there, but who knows? It could be John Ojukwu. So
they're going to keep rotating them.
Right.
They essentially admitted they're going to keep They said it's helped. They're like, the sacks are down.
Yeah.
We're going to keep rotating Watson and Ojukwu at right
Yeah, so you're going to see both of those guys there. But without Lloyd Cushenberry, I do think that the line takes a big hit, so we'll see how they held up against this very good Chargers defense. One thing the Chargers defense is only average at is quarterback pressure. They're 15th in the league in quarterback pressure rate. They are 9th in the league in total sacks, but they haven't been fantastic as a pass rushing unit, even with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. They are allowing the 11th fewest passing yards per game this season. So one thing that we saw from Mason Rudolph, you talk about the pressure to sack, just getting the ball out of your hands quickly makes it a lot more difficult for a sack to be converted. And even if Mason Rudolph wasn't always making the best decisions with the ball in terms of protecting it, he was at least making quick decisions and getting the ball out of his hands. So that's something we need to see from Will Levis too.
And granted, to be fair though, still making better decisions than Will Levis was with the ball, right? Not quite as careless with it as Levis was. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's funny. Like, if you told me Mike Vrabel coached this Chargers team, I would believe it. Don't they just kind of feel like a Mike Vrabel team? Like, I feel like Harbaugh's got a lot of similar. Like, they took Justin Herbert, and I don't know that I blame them, because we saw this Chargers team for years trying to build an identity around Herbert and fail. And I don't think that's all on Herbert, but this team is significantly different. They are not putting this on the shoulders of Justin Herbert. He's not going out there and playing hero ball. Harbaugh's an old school guy. He hires Greg Roman as his OC. That's a run first guy. They've had a resurgent J.K. Dobbins at running back. They're a physical, hard-nosed football team. They are a Mike Vrabel throwback type of football team. Oh, and they've got like 37 of Mike Vrabel's players on the roster, right? Like frickin' Bud Dupree's on this team, Elijah Molden, Christian Fulton, Tier Tart, Hassan Haskins. Like, it's crazy how many ex-Titans they have. And a lot of them are playing well. Like, Molden's playing really good for them at safety. So a bunch of ex-Titans here. They take the game out of the quarterback's hands, even though it's a quote-unquote superstar quarterback, and they're winning by playing physical, by running the football, and playing good defense. So they're a team, you'd almost argue, if you look at that roster, it's still not that good. It's the first year of a new regime. They're kind of rebuilding, but they've got a quarterback that obviously can accelerate that process. I would argue they're ahead of schedule right now,
absolutely,
to be honest with you. And I think that's credit to the job that Harbaugh's doing.
No doubt. We came into this season as a football media conglomerate saying the Chargers had one of the least talented rosters in the NFL, and the people who were picking the Chargers to do well were like, based on what? Jim Harbaugh? How is he going to get this roster to be good? And he's done it so far. I mean, they aren't great. They aren't dominant, but they're a very good team. Justin Herbert's 21st in the NFL in passing yards per game right now at just 215.6. He has 10 touchdown passes to just 1 interception this year, though. So he's playing very well. He has over a 100 quarterback rating on the season. And you're right that they're not asking him to do a whole lot. He also doesn't have weapons, really. He doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to. And Jim Harbaugh's system has made Quentin Johnston, who was a horrible draft bust as a rookie, look pretty good. He's making plays down the field. He's a guy that the Titans are definitely going to have to watch and make sure he doesn't get behind the defense, because he can break a 60-yard touchdown at any moment in a game if you lose track of him in the secondary. So that's a big thing to watch in this one as well. I'm not really concerned with the Titans winning or losing this game, to be totally honest. Like, would it be nice to see them string together multiple wins? Yeah, for sure. Now that you're not really in the conversation for the number 1 pick, and we talked about this at the end of, in our recap.
You are.
I mean, you kind of are, but
there are 9 2-win teams in the league, and they're one of them, and no one has 1 or less. So
yeah, that's true. We talked about it last week, though, in the recap about how fighting for draft position right now is kind of silly. Like, you want to have the highest pick possible when you're in the state of rebuilding that the Titans are, but at the same time, you can pick the wrong guy. You can flip the standings around in week 18 with one dumb play. Like, there's so many things that can happen. So we're not going to stress about it too much. I will say, Justin, is there any chance the Titans make a run here? None? They're only 3 wins back of the 7 seed in the wild card right now.
They don't even have 3 wins.
No, but if they double their win total, they'll have 4 wins.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, no, I'm not there. I mean, and look, and I'm not rooting for losses. I'm just being honest with you. I'm giving you my honest assessment, right? Like the best case scenario for this team is to go on a run and have Will Levis prove that he can have a great second half and lead this team. Because you know what's better than the opportunity to draft a franchise quarterback?
Already having one.
Right? So the best case scenario is Will Levis is one and becomes one and plays so well down this second half that you're like, you know what, forget that first half. Maybe we do have our guy. Make no mistake, that's still the best case scenario. Right. It's not a chance to draft the mystery box that might be a boat when I already have a boat. It's a classic Family Guy scene everyone knows, right? So
we've referenced that probably.
We're not rooting for losses. We're rooting for Will Levis to play damn good football.
We've referenced that probably 30 times on this podcast in the last few years. Yeah, no, I agree. So what I want to see from this Titans team, first of all, let's talk about injuries. L'Jarius Sneed is out. We already talked about Lloyd Cushenberry. Quandre Diggs out for the year. The Titans signed Mike Edwards, veteran safety who's played good football in his career. I think as far as mid-season off the street safety signings go, it's about as good as you can hope for.
He's only on the street for a day, too.
Yeah, he was just waived. And the Titans picked him up.
Granted his release, like he has to be cut.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's interesting. So he'll basically slot into Quandre Diggs' spot, but we'll see how quickly or how slowly how long it takes him to get up to speed in the defense. Cause it's not like he can just step into a Denard Wilson defense from day one and hit the ground running, or maybe, I don't know. We'll see how many snaps he gets. Mike Brown played decently well, I thought last week. And Amani Hooker was obviously just like balling out with 2 interceptions against Drake May. So,
such a good football player. So
there's still some talent on this team, even without L'Jarius Sneed. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. continues to play well. Tavondre Sweat continues to play well. Jeffrey Simmons coming off his best game of the season, if not of the last 2 seasons, maybe.
Oh, yeah. He was out amazing.
So the Titans, they played inspired football last week. Granted, they played against one of the worst teams in the league. So that's the big caveat and the obvious one. But really, it'd be nice to see them win this game. I'm not expecting it. I'm not even rooting for it. I mean, sure, whatever. But I'm rooting for these young players to continue to play well, for Will Levis to do something good and give us some hope and give us some encouragement for the rest of this season, that we're not going to be watching one of the most boring, worst, hardest to watch offenses in the NFL, because that's what Titans fans endured for the first 6-7 weeks of the season until these last 2 games when they put up over 400 yards of offense. So just give us something fun to watch and give us some encouraging signs from the young players, and I'll come out of this game feeling good about the direction of the team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm writing an article on analyzing Will Levis's first start back, because I think that's what all eyes should be on, right? It's what does he do, and does he show any growth? Does he come back refreshed? Does he look better, or does he look rusty? Does he look like his confidence is still shaken? Again, is he sacked 5 times by a very average Chargers pass rush? Like, those are the things to be looking out for on Sunday.
No doubt. And, we saw Bryce Young head to the bench by coach's decision earlier this year, came back, and he's played not great, but pretty good since he came back into the lineup. Yeah. I think last week may have been the best game of his young career so far. And he beat the Saints, who are obviously in a disaster tailspin, but still beat a division rival Saints team. Let's see something similar from Will Levis. You take a few weeks on the sidelines, watch things through the eyes of Mason Rudolph, review the film of what he's doing right and wrong the day after those games, and come back and take the field with a different mental approach. And let's see if that can benefit him. Hopefully it will. Justin, should we hit our segment, I'll Drink to That?
Indeed.
Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Look at this beautiful latte that
That's a nice looking latte.
My lovely girlfriend Jessica just made me while we were taping here. So I'll drink this to that. And what we're drinking to, for me, I'll let you give yours. Mine is Will Levis finally returning, because this is what this season was always about, was finding out about Will Levis. And we've had to take a break from it and see what Mason Rudolph can do, and he's done okay, not good, not bad. Now I'm drinking to the fact that the whole point of 2024 for the Titans to find out if Will Levis is the franchise quarterback, that agenda is back on the docket.
And adding to that, as I said last week, but it still qualifies today. You're about to get the largest sample size of him if he stays healthy this year, right? He's only started, a handful of games. You're going to get hopefully 9 starts to conclude the year here. So this would be the largest sample size we've had of him. I'm going to drink to putting the spotlight on 2 guys, randomly maybe, but Arden Key, Sebastian Joseph Day. Two guys they got trade offers for Tuesday's trade deadline, decided not to trade them. That's what reports indicated, at least the Athletic reporting that. Decided to keep them. Only one reason, in my opinion. You potentially see them as long-term guys that can play for your team. Arden Key under contract next year. Yes, they could cut him, save a couple bucks. I think it makes more sense to keep him as your third rotational rusher. I think they got to bring in someone better than him, opposite Harold Landry, relegate him down to your number 3. But the point is, they could cut him. I'd like to see them say, hey, we didn't trade him because we see him in our plans. He's got to continue playing well and show me. Because I'm not going to lie, he worries me a little. Was he just a guy playing motivated to get traded? Well, now that he knows he's not getting traded, can he continue the hot streak? Was really good against Detroit and New England.
Yeah.
Got to keep it going. Really interesting on Sebastian Joseph Day as well, because unlike Arden Key, he is on an expiring contract. Why wouldn't you take anything you could get for him? You traded DeAndre Hopkins, you traded Ernest Jones, who were on deals that were expiring. Well, I'm hoping he continues to play well, and it's because maybe you think you bring him back next year.
Yeah.
He's looked great playing with Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat. I think there's a very realistic possibility where you re-sign him and feel really good about your defensive line depth. Don't have to make any big acquisitions in the offseason there. So want to see both those guys playing well, even though they know they're not getting traded.
I like that. And I'm going to drink to one more thing while we're here, Justin. I see something behind you that resembles you. What is this? Talk about this.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to show you guys this. Thanks for the reminder.
If you're listening to the podcast, you're missing out. Head over to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Music City Audible Podcast, and look at this beautiful object that Justin has. You're going to want to tilt it down, I think.
Tilt it down a
Yeah,
bit,
there you go. Yeah, like tilt it. Yeah, like angle it down more. Down. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Now we can see it.
There we go.
Look at that guy.
Graver's the producer of this show. I just talk. This is a Funko Pop of me. This is Justin Melo Funko Pop. Shout out to the good folks at Funko Pop. It says on the back, look, it says pop yourself. They're doing this thing now. It says it on the front too. I didn't have to turn it around. It says pop yourself on the box. And they reached out to me and they made a Funko Pop of me. I thought that was awesome. You pick your team, and they're gonna mail you one in your gear. Of course, you got to pay for it, but it's an outstanding product. I'm so happy with it. I mean, like they got the little beard going. It looks like a Justin Melo Funko Pop. These guys did an amazing job. Thanks to everyone at Funko Pop for sending this my way. Thanks to the team at 42 West who reached out to me with this opportunity. I love it, man. I really love it. It's going to be on display here forever. I got it up before I got my book up. I'm still buying the right frame for Titans of the South, but the Funko Pop is already on display. Make sure you look into this, man. Funko.com. Get yourself a Funko Pop of yourself.
That's cool. I'm drinking to that. I'll drink to that. Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Plus, Sinkers Beverages is on Uber Eats, making it the most convenient way to get all the booze you need. All right, Justin, last segment we're going to talk about here before we get to our game predictions, which we're just doing for the sake of keeping up with our record at this point. But let's talk about some guys because, okay, we talked about can the Titans go on a run here and make the playoffs? Very unlikely. Now, Will Levis, if he becomes good out of nowhere, which is, again, very unlikely, that can change everything for a team. Look what Jaden Daniels did for the Commanders. So it's not over, but it's pretty much over. So let's talk about how to keep improving this team. And we're going to talk about just a short list of guys here. It's very early in the process, so we're going to keep this to mostly headliner type guys that you may or may not have already heard of. If you follow college football, you've definitely heard of them. If you don't follow college football, there's a chance still that you have heard of them because these are going to be the biggest names in the draft. And with us expecting the Titans to pick relatively high, we can actually talk about these guys with the Titans are going to get one of these guys, maybe not necessarily this list, but they're going to get one of the top guys in the draft if they decide to, if they don't trade back. So let's talk about some of these guys. We got a few quarterbacks on here. We got a few other position players we're going to talk through, and we're going to look at the schedule of games that are happening. We record this on Friday morning. They're happening tomorrow, Saturday, and what players to watch in these games if you have a free moment to sit down and watch some of these games, because it's always better to go into the draft process already knowing some of these guys and having an idea of who they are versus trying to play catch up once we get to March and April. So Let's start early in the morning. We got two games that I'm going to have my eye on at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's frickin' 9 a.m. for me. I'm literally going to watch the Texas game in bed tomorrow morning. 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, Miami at Georgia Tech. And the player in this game that we're watching is obviously quarterback Cam Ward, Heisman candidate, a guy who flashes a ton of exciting upside, athleticism, playmaking ability, out of structure ability, but who also can struggle to protect the ball, decision-making sometimes lacking. He's an older guy, so you'd like to see that decision-making be more polished. But what are you thinking in this Miami game? Is there anyone else, or is this all about Cam Ward for you?
It's pretty much all about Cam Ward. I mean, I'll admit he does scare the crap out of me. The athleticism, the off-script stuff's exciting. But then, I mean, there was the interception last week you're going to see all pre-draft, right? Like across his body, super late after holding onto the ball for like 6 seconds, right? Or something along those lines. Like, there are those things that worry me. And as someone that's probably shell-shocked by the way Will Levis is playing right now, it's hard not to be a little afraid when you see those traits in college. But he's going to go high. I think there's a chance he's going to go very high. I wouldn't rule out that he's the number one pick in the draft.
Same.
Even. Who knows, right? First quarterback drafted. I think the raw talent is going to make teams intrigued to bet on him. So definitely that's obviously the guy to watch next.
He also had a play earlier in the year that was very similar to the Will Levis bowling ball fumble to Tajay Spears, where he just rolled the ball to a player. And it was like we have Will Levis at home, or we have Cam Ward at home. I don't know, whatever meme you want to throw out there. Like, they have some similar deficiencies, but the difference to me is that Cam Ward, the upside and the playmaking ability out of structure is like elite level. The things he can do. Now, sometimes he is a little crazy and reckless with that out of structure stuff, like the interception thrown across his body you just mentioned. But this is a guy that I'm excited to dig into more as we get really into the draft process, because there's something about that athletic ability that is really tantalizing, that gives you some potential Jaden Daniels vibes in some instances. Obviously a different frame and a different type of player, but some athletic similarities there. The other game at 11 a.m. Central is Florida at Texas. We'll be a lot quicker on this one. The one player here is Quinn Ewers. I obviously have a lot of insight and expertise into Quinn Ewers, as I've watched every single snap he's taken in college, being a Texas alumni myself. So Quinn Ewers, he's had an up and down season. I think he's probably hurt his draft stock from where it was at the end of last year overall. Yeah. There's a lot of injury concerns. He hasn't made it through a full season healthy yet in his college career. Obviously something that is only going to get worse at the NFL level when the hits get bigger and the players get bigger and everything gets more violent. So that's something to watch. But one thing that Quinn does really, really well, and again, we're comparing this sort of through the who isn't Will Levis lens, at least for me. And one thing Quinn does really well when he's on his game is his pocket maneuvering and navigation and presence and sensing the rush and ability to step up in the pocket and keep his eyes downfield and make a play, or use his legs when he has to. But really that ability to keep a play alive in the pocket without doing what Cam Ward does or what Shedeur Sanders does, which is like spin around in the backfield and like cover 30 yards in the backfield to like evade tacklers. Quinn Ewers will like make subtle movements in the pocket that are really high level, in my opinion. His deep ball's got to improve. Some decision-making stuff's got to improve, and the durability. But there are definitely things about Quinn's game that I really like.
Well, you said it on him. I'm going to give you Kelvin Banks because I'm a little surprised you didn't mention him. Potential top 10 pick as well. Is he a tackle? Is he a guard? I think that's a question that'll be answered throughout the pre-draft process. But Titans could end up being in the market for both, right? If they don't re-sign Dylan Radins, they'll have a hole at right guard. They already obviously have one at right tackle. So he's one to watch as well. I don't think the Titans are taking a lineman for a third year in a row that highly.
You never know.
But you never know. It's a need. So it's within the realm of possibility.
Absolutely. So that's your 11 a.m. games. We got players we got a player on Miami. We got a couple of players on Texas. At 2:30, Georgia plays Ole Miss. Now, Georgia is always a factory for NFL talent. And they got a few guys that we're going to be interested here. I'm going to just say both edge rushers. The two edge rushers they have are elite level players. These are potential top 10 picks, both of them, maybe, depending on how the rest of the season goes for them. And then Carson Beck. I'm very low on Carson Beck. I don't think he's got NFL talent, but he's going to get drafted probably. So those are pretty much the three guys in the Georgia Ole Miss game I'll have my eye on.
Yeah, I'm going to run rapid fire there. I feel the same way about Carson Beck. I don't think he's a first round quarterback.
No.
Love the two edge defenders, Michael Williams and Jalen Walker. Walker's one that's emerged lately. I'm going to talk about resume games quite a bit in the next few minutes. You know it yourself. Jalen Walker dominated Texas a couple weeks ago in that big game. That was Jalen Walker's come out party. This was not a guy that came into the year like he is a for sure, surefire thing. And he started slowly. That game was a coming out party for Jalen Walker. He's put his name into the edge one, edge two, edge three mix. There are a ton of the edge position is so tough to sort through in this class. It's actually exciting. I love the mystery surrounding it right now. But Walker's announced his arrival in that Texas game. Michael Williams, do you remember a couple months ago we were watching the JC Latham tape with the coach at IMG, and I brought him up. I said, this is a guy this year. Well, he still looked a little raw. There are some questions he might fit better inside. He's battled through an injury, but I'll tell you, the bright moments of him this year have been what I said it was months ago, like a potential top 10 pick. This is a guy with a lot of upside that I think still figuring it out. They've got the safety over there. Malachi Starks is an interesting player. I think he's the only first-round safety in this class, Georgia. And not for the Titans, but I love the D tackle at Ole Miss, Walter Nolan. Not a big fit for the not a big need for the Titans, that is. I think Walter Nolan's the best interior player in this class. I think he's like a top 15 pick. I love that defensive tackle.
Wow, yeah. And I'll just say this about Michael Williams is that he's getting healthier. And the healthier he gets, the better he's looking. Again, durability is always going to be something we talk about during the draft process. But if the Titans feel like this isn't the quarterback class to dip their toe in, if they get a veteran bridge guy or something and they wait for 2026, I am all in on one of these edge guys as the top pick because
so many of them.
It could really change the entire complexion of the team if you get one of those true difference makers at edge, which the Titans do not have. All right, the next game on the schedule that we are concerned with is at 3 p.m. Central, Colorado at Texas Tech. Colorado has two guys that I'm interested in. I'm sure Titans fans are very interested in. Shedeur Sanders, of course, another candidate to be QB1 in this draft, and Travis Hunter, the two-way freak athlete who should win the Heisman, in my opinion. Plays cornerback and wide receiver, if you don't know. I don't know what he's going to be in the NFL. It's still kind of a mystery what he'll be in the NFL. He seems to think he could play both ways in the NFL. I don't know if that's smart or really practical, but if the Titans, again, decide not to dip their toe in the QB market, I like Travis Hunter, whichever side of the ball you like him on. Well, he's just a tremendous athlete and tremendous football player.
Well, he's a superstar. He's the best overall player in the draft, in my opinion. And he probably doesn't go number one overall. Right. I mean, maybe not. So Titans should be in the mix for him if they're not going quarterback. And if they are, the guy throwing him the ball, like you said, Shedeur Sanders is certainly going to be someone that's in the mix.
So that's 3 p.m. Central Time. At 7 p.m., we're jumping to the late games. Washington at Penn State. Penn State's got a couple guys to keep your eye on. Now, these are two guys I'm not as sold on. I mean, maybe you are. But Drew Aller, there's a lot of people that like him a lot as QB1. I think he's a little bit more raw. I haven't dug too much into his tape, to be honest, so I got to educate myself a little more. But that's one thing I'm excited to do this weekend at 7 p.m. Central Time is watch this Penn State game. And then Abdul Carter, the defensive end, another guy who's going to be in this very crowded edge mix near the top of the draft.
If I was a betting man, and I'm only a very small betting man, I think he's my pick for edge one in this class as of right now. I was intrigued by him going into the year, started slowly. You know how I talked about resume games a second ago? And I said, I'm going to be talking about resume games because I already had him in my mind. The tape against Ohio State is freakish. It's unbelievable from last week. It's A+. It's what you expect from a dominant edge rusher. It was his official, I'm an elite prospect. You're going to hear about that game throughout the entire time. He was so freaking good against Ohio State. I think there's a decent chance he ends up the best edge rusher in this class.
So that's quarterback Drew Aller. I don't know if I said he was quarterback. Did I? Maybe. I'm not sure.
I think people should know if they don't.
People should know, but hey, if
I'm talking about Abdul Carter.
You're talking about Abdul Carter, defensive end. All right, and the last game on the schedule for us to care about here, and there's other games, but this is wait, did I do this out of order? Hang on. Let me just double check.
It doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter, but I want to make sure I wrote down the Central Standard Time if I'm going to say it out loud and not the Pacific Time. Yes, I did. 6:30 p.m. So before the Washington Penn State game, 6:30 p.m. Any college football fan in the world is going to be tuned into this one, so we don't really need to talk too much about it. But Alabama at LSU in Death Valley, potential pivotal game for the SEC championship. LSU with only one conference loss right now, and this is their last really tough game on the schedule. If they win this, Georgia plays Tennessee, So one of those two teams is going to have 2 division losses. Texas plays Texas, or conference losses. Texas plays Texas A&M. So one of those 2 teams is going to have 2 conference losses. Whoever wins between Bama and LSU is going to have an easier road to the SEC championship in a very competitive conference. But what we care about here is 2 players, both quarterback for me is where I'm going. Garrett Nussmeier, who, if you look at his draft projections, some people are like, he's QB1, and some people are like, he's a 6th-round pick. He's Zach Mettenberger. So there's a lot of range of outcomes for Garrett Nussmeier. I'm excited to keep learning more about him. Also, no guarantee that he comes out in this 2025 class at all. And then on the other side of the field, Jalen Milroe had a very up and down season. At certain points was looked at as the QB1, had a couple bad games, and now it's very questionable where he's going to go. But this should be a great head-to-head matchup between 2 players who have a chance to continue improving their draft stock.
Well, it's funny. I think, again, betting man, I would guess both quarterbacks go back to school. And I think it would actually benefit both of them to go back. For the Alabama kid, first year under head coach Kalen DeBoer, we saw what it worked for Michael Penix to work in that system for a couple of years and what it did for him as a prospect, right? I think he would benefit greatly from going back and staying in that system. And he's raw. He's had a couple bad games this year. I bet it would look a lot better next year if he's in that same system. And same thing with Garrett Nussmeier, first year starting quarterback. You look at the recent track record of 1 year starting quarterbacks in college transitioning to the NFL, it's not good, right? You get guys like Trey Lance, Zach Wilson hadn't played a ton of ball by the time he came out. Essentially, it's bust after Anthony Richardson. We see what the path he's going down right now. Didn't play a lot of ball in college. I think it makes sense for both of them to go back. But if one of them have a great game in this game and it's a resume game, I can see them being convinced to come out, strike while the iron's hot. If you think you're going to be a top 10 pick because of this game, then you probably come out. So definitely worth monitoring both of those kids. Rapid fire LSU receiver Kyron Lacey, I think, is a guy that's climbing up boards, potential first-round guy. 2 offensive tackles there. The left tackle, Will Campbell, is probably a guard, but he is someone that I like. And then you've got the right tackle, Emory Jones, as well. Titans, obviously, big need at right tackle. Big need at guard, which Will Campbell, I think, is going to be at the next level. But the whole class is guards. Every tackle is a freaking guard. You're going to learn that. You're going to hate it. Wyatt Millum, West Virginia, I love him. He's a guard. That's another one to get familiar with, but he's a guard. Purdue's got a tackle I really like, Marcus Bow. He might be the best one in this class. Underrated kid. I also like the kid at Minnesota. But these big name tackles, they're all friggin' guards. It feels like the Texas kid might be a guard. Will Campbell might be a guard. Wyatt Millum's a guard. Like a lot of guards in this offensive tackle class. But definitely some good kids in this LSU Alabama game.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is going to be a great game. There's a lot of great college football games as the schedule tightens up here and we get to the end of the stretch. So lots of players to watch. Hope you enjoyed that segment. Really quick, Justin, predictions.
Chargers 23, Titans 17. I just think the Chargers' more physical team will probably force a critical turnover or 2. They win a close, hard-fought one.
Okay, I like that. I have a Chargers slightly bigger win. I'm going Chargers 27, Titans 17. Same score for the Titans, but yeah. And real quick here, just to update where we're at with these prediction standings. Last week you had Patriots 20, Titans 14. I had Patriots 13, Titans 10. So we were both wrong, but you had the Titans with a 6-point loss. I had the Titans with a 3-point loss. So I'm giving myself the win. You're up to 5-3 on the season. I am 3-5 on the season. So let's see. We have very similar predictions this week. 23-17, 27-17, both for the Chargers. Again, if the Titans win, you'll take the victory this time because you have a lower margin of defeat predicted. If the Chargers win, it's going to come down to that final score and we'll have to figure it out. All right, that'll do it for this one. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the Music City Audible. Give this video a thumbs up like. Turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video, and comment anything below. Thanks again to Sinkers Beverages, and that's it. What else? That's it.
Thanks to Funko Pop.
Thanks to Funko Pop.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's it. Y'all stay safe out there. Tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.